Did you know that our planet has around 340 billion trees, and every year, the world's biggest furniture brand, IKEA, uses about 1% of them? That's over 30 billion trees annually, or about 963 trees every single second. But here is the shocking part. This billion-dollar empire didn't start with fancy stores or massive factories. It began with just a few boxes of matches. And the man behind this empire? A boy who struggled with dyslexia, couldn't even remember names properly, but turned that weakness into his greatest strength. This is the unbelievable story of Ingvar Kamprad, the founder of IKEA. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll never look at IKEA the same way again. Ingvar Kamprad's story begins when he was just 6 years old, an age when most kids are busy running around playgrounds or playing with toys. But Ingvar wasn't like most kids. He had a sharp eye for opportunity, even if he didn't fully realize it at the time. One day, his grandmother handed him 88 Swedish öre, less than $1 in today's money. For most children, that would have meant candy, marbles, or maybe a toy. But Ingvar saw something else, a chance to turn that small gift into something bigger. With the money, he bought 100 boxes of matches. Now, matches weren't a luxury. They were a daily necessity in Sweden back then. Families needed them to light stoves, lamps, and fireplaces. Ingvar understood one simple rule, even as a child. If people need something every single day, they'll always buy it. His grandmother, wanting to encourage him, became his very first customer. She bought a box for 3 cents. It might sound symbolic, but it wasn't just a purchase. It was the spark that ignited a lifelong journey. Soon, neighbors started buying from him too. Word spread in the village about the little boy selling matches, and Ingvar's tiny venture began to grow. By the time he was done, he had turned his small investment into 3 Swedish krona, roughly triple what he started with. For a 6-year-old, that was huge. But more importantly, it planted a seed in his mind. Buy low, sell high, reinvest the profit. This simple formula became the foundation of everything Ingvar would go on to build. Unlike most kids his age, Ingvar wasn't satisfied with just making a little pocket money. He didn't spend it on sweets or toys. Instead, he reinvested it. He looked around for other things people wanted and started experimenting. Pens, watches, wallets, belts, whatever he thought could sell, he tried. Each time, he learned something new. How to price items so people would buy without hesitation. How to offer just a little more value than competitors. And most importantly, how to take the profits and roll them back into the business instead of wasting them. Think about that for a second. Most children at 6 or 7 are learning to read or draw inside coloring books. Ingvar was learning the fundamentals of entrepreneurship, lessons some adults never master. And it wasn't just about the money. Selling gave him confidence. It taught him how to approach people, how to talk, how to convince them to buy. Every match sold was a lesson in human behavior. Every small deal built the foundation for what would one day become a global empire. Looking back, it seems almost unbelievable. But for Ingvar Kamprad, the path to becoming the founder of the world's biggest furniture brand didn't start in a boardroom. It didn't start in a fancy store. It started with a handful of matches, a supportive grandmother, and a boy who believed he could turn a few cents into something extraordinary. Ingvar Kamprad was never an ordinary student. While most children found school challenging in the usual ways, Ingvar faced something much harder. He was diagnosed with dyslexia, a condition that made reading and memorizing words extremely difficult. For a boy growing up in the 1930s and 40s, this wasn't something teachers fully understood, and it often made him feel out of place in the classroom. But instead of letting it hold him back, Ingvar turned his struggles into motivation. He realized that while books and spelling might not be his strength, he had something even more valuable, a sharp business mind. Even in school, he kept hustling. While his classmates focused only on lessons, Ingvar was busy finding ways to make a profit. The plan worked brilliantly. Ingvar sold 500 pencils and, for the very first time, felt the satisfaction of making what he considered a real profit. It was more than just pocket money. It was proof that he could compete, organize, and win. By the time he was a teenager, Ingvar wasn't just a student anymore. He was a budding entrepreneur. His father saw this in him, and when Ingvar finally graduated at the age of 17, he gave his son a special gift. Not a car, not a vacation, but money to officially register a company. In 1943, that company came to life. The name, IKEA. But it wasn't just a random word. Ingvar carefully created it from the letters around his life. The I and K stood for Ingvar Kamprad himself. But success didn't come easy. By the late 1940s, the world had just emerged from the devastation of World War II. Across Europe, countries were rebuilding, and in Sweden, the government launched a massive housing program. Thousands of new homes were being constructed almost overnight. And what do new homes need? Furniture, affordable furniture. This was the perfect storm of opportunity, and Ingvar Kamprad saw it clearly. While others were slow to react, he added furniture to his IKEA catalog. What started with small household items now expanded into tables, chairs, and wardrobes, things every family needed. The response was overwhelming. Sales skyrocketed as families rushed to furnish their new homes with affordable options. For a moment, it seemed like nothing could stop IKEA's rise. But Ingvar had a personal challenge: his dyslexia. He couldn't easily memorize or manage the long product codes that suppliers and retailers typically used. For most businessmen, this would have been a major setback. But Ingvar did what he always did. He turned a weakness into strength. Instead of using complicated codes, he gave every item in the catalog a simple, memorable name. Chairs were named after Scandinavian towns, tables after lakes, and rugs after places in Denmark. Customers found it easier to order when they could ask for the Klippen sofa or the Malm bed, instead of fumbling over numbers. What began as Ingvar's coping mechanism became one of IKEA's most distinctive features. Shoppers actually enjoyed flipping through the catalog because the names made products feel personal, even charming. The catalog didn't just sell furniture, it created an experience. But of course, success attracts competition. Soon, rival companies noticed IKEA's rapid growth and launched their own attacks. Their strategy? Cut prices, even if it meant lowering quality. Customers might save a little money, but the products often didn't last. Ingvar refused to play that game. He believed people didn't just want cheap furniture, they wanted affordable furniture that still felt valuable. So instead of sacrificing quality, he looked at another angle: distribution costs. This insight changed everything. In 1953, IKEA opened its first physical store. Until then, IKEA had been mostly a mail order business, with customers ordering from catalogs and waiting for delivery. But Ingvar understood that furniture wasn't like buying a pen or a wallet. People wanted to touch it, sit on it, and see it with their own eyes before they spent money. The store changed the rules. Customers could finally test the furniture themselves, which built trust. At the same time, Ingvar slashed delivery costs because more customers could pick up items directly. It was a win-win. And to make sure even people living farther away could visit, he introduced something unheard of at the time: free bus rides to the store. Families could travel together. shop, and head home without worrying about transportation. The strategy worked brilliantly. IKEA wasn't just another retailer anymore. It was an experience, a place where people could see, feel, and buy affordable furniture with confidence. And with this bold move, Ingvar Kamprad had set IKEA apart from every competitor. What began as a small catalog business was now transforming into a retail revolution. The gamble paid off. On the very first day, IKEA's store opened its doors. Nearly 1,000 people lined up outside. The crowd was so large that traffic jams formed, and people waited hours just to get inside. When the doors finally opened, customers poured in, eager to see affordable, stylish furniture that looked nothing like the overpriced pieces sold elsewhere. In that single moment, Ingvar Kamprad's dream began to take shape. IKEA was no longer just a mail-order business tucked away in a small shed. It was becoming a retail revolution. But as IKEA grew, so did the number of enemies. Other Swedish furniture dealers quickly realized they couldn't compete with IKEA's prices. Ingvar had done the impossible: high-quality furniture that was still affordable. Customers loved it, but competitors saw it as a direct threat to their survival. Soon, Ingvar found himself under attack. His rivals banned IKEA from furniture trade fairs, the very events where companies showcased new designs and made deals. Even worse, they put enormous pressure on suppliers, warning them not to do business with IKEA. Many suppliers, afraid of losing their other clients, reluctantly cut ties with Ingvar. For most entrepreneurs, that might have been the end of the road. No suppliers meant no products, and no products meant no business. But Ingvar wasn't like most entrepreneurs. He thought differently. Instead of begging suppliers to return, he made them an offer they couldn't refuse: faster payments. At the time, most furniture retailers took 3 months, sometimes even longer, to pay their suppliers. That meant suppliers often struggled with cash flow, waiting anxiously to receive the money they needed to keep production going. Ingvar flipped the system. IKEA would pay its suppliers in just 10 days. This bold move changed everything. Suddenly, working with IKEA wasn't just safe, it was profitable. Suppliers started coming back, even if it meant delivering their goods in secret, under the cover of night. Trucks would roll into IKEA's warehouse after dark, unloading furniture quietly so competitors wouldn't notice. Ingvar had turned a disadvantage into a powerful advantage. And then came the breakthrough that would redefine not just IKEA, but the entire furniture industry. One day, an IKEA employee noticed something ordinary but important: a frustrated customer trying to load a table into his small car. No matter how hard he tried, the table simply wouldn't fit. Ingvar's team could have ignored it, but instead they asked a simple question: what if the legs came off? The idea was so simple yet so revolutionary. By removing the legs and packing the table flat, the customer could take it home easily. Delivery costs dropped, storage became cheaper, and suddenly, furniture was no longer limited by bulky shapes. That small, practical solution gave birth to flat-pack furniture, a concept that would not only save money for both IKEA and its customers, but also reshape the way people around the world bought and built their homes. From one customer's struggle came a billion-dollar idea, and once again, Ingvar Kamprad proved his greatest strength: seeing opportunities where others only saw problems. Flat packing changed everything. What started as a simple solution to help a customer fit a table into his car quickly turned into a revolution. By packing furniture flat, IKEA could ship more products in fewer trucks, cutting transportation costs dramatically. Warehouses could store more inventory in less space, which meant lower overhead. And customers loved it, because they no longer had to wait days or weeks for delivery. They could walk into a store, grab a box, load it in their car, and head home the very same day. But there was an unexpected side effect. Customers who built the furniture themselves felt a deeper sense of pride and ownership. That bookshelf or table wasn't just another piece of furniture, it was their creation, something they had invested effort into. Psychologists later gave this phenomenon a name, the IKEA effect. It described how people value something more when they've put their own work into making it. Ingvar hadn't just sold furniture, he had tapped into human psychology. With Flatpack as its backbone, IKEA only grew bigger and bolder. Ingvar understood that shopping wasn't just about buying, it was about the experience. So IKEA stores were designed like no other. Instead of rows of shelves or multiple entrances, each store had a single path. Customers entered at one end and exited only after walking through the entire showroom. Along the way, they passed every product category: kitchens, bedrooms, living rooms, lighting. Even if someone came in just to buy a lamp, they'd likely leave with a sofa, a rug, and maybe a desk, too. But Ingvar knew people could get tired, even hungry, during such a long journey. And the last thing he wanted was for customers to leave the store for lunch, and possibly not return. His solution? Add restaurants inside IKEA stores. It was a genius move. Families could pause their shopping, enjoy a hot meal at low prices, and then continue browsing refreshed. The food, especially IKEA's Swedish meatballs, became a hit in its own right, turning a furniture store into a full-day destination. Shopping at IKEA wasn't just an errand anymore. It was an experience, almost like a family outing. The results were staggering. On the opening day of a new store in 1965, more than 18,000 people showed up. The crowd was so massive that traffic in the area came to a standstill. People waited for hours just to get inside, proving that IKEA wasn't just a store, it was a phenomenon. By the 1970s, IKEA had become one of the most successful retailers in all of Sweden. What began as a small trading company started by a teenager in a tiny shed was now transforming into a household name, built on three simple ideas: affordability, accessibility, and experience. And yet, for Ingvar Kamprad, this was still just the beginning. IKEA wasn't destined to stay in Sweden. It was about to take on the world. But Ingvar Kamprad's vision was never just about selling furniture. He had a bigger dream. He wanted IKEA to outlive him, to remain strong long after he was gone. He knew one thing for certain: if IKEA stayed under his family's direct ownership, it could be broken apart by inheritance taxes or family disputes. Sweden's tax system at the time was especially harsh, and Ingvar feared that his life's work might not survive the next generation. So, in typical Ingvar fashion, he thought differently. Instead of keeping IKEA as a traditional company, he built a complex web of foundations and trusts across different countries. Each piece of the structure was designed to protect IKEA's independence, reinvest profits into growth, and ensure that no single heir could ever break it apart. Critics, of course, didn't see it that way. Many accused him of creating a tax shelter, of hiding money offshore, of bending the rules. The media labeled him secretive, even cunning. But Ingvar always defended his choices. For him, it wasn't about personal wealth. It was about protecting the future of IKEA. Thanks to that system, the company could continue expanding without being crippled by inheritance battles or government taxes. But even Ingvar couldn't avoid controversy. In the 1980s, an investigation revealed something troubling. Some factories in East Germany that supplied IKEA had used prison labor. It was a shocking revelation that threatened to damage the company's reputation. For a brand built on trust and affordability, this was a major blow. When the truth came out, IKEA didn't deny it. Instead, they launched their own internal investigation and later confirmed that yes, prison labor had been used without the company's knowledge. Ingvar and IKEA issued a public apology, acknowledging the mistake and vowing to prevent such practices in the future. It was a difficult lesson, but it showed that even global giants are not immune to ethical challenges. Despite these setbacks, IKEA's momentum was unstoppable. Through the 1980s and into the 1990s, the company kept expanding at an incredible pace. By 1990, IKEA had opened over 70 new stores across Europe, North America, and Asia. Customers everywhere were embracing flat-pack furniture, the showroom experience, and of course, the famous meatballs. And IKEA didn't stop there. By 2008, it officially became the largest furniture retailer in the world. No competitor came close. IKEA had turned affordable home furnishings into a global empire. Then, in 2018, Ingvar Kamprad passed away at the age of 91. The news made headlines worldwide. He had started with nothing more than matchboxes and a dream, and ended up creating one of the most recognizable brands on the planet. But even in death, his influence remained. Today, IKEA operates more than 470 stores worldwide, launching over 2,000 new products every single year. And in every catalog, every store, and every showroom, one tradition still lives on. Every single product carries a Swedish name, a legacy of Ingvar's dyslexia, and a reminder that what once was his weakness had become a cornerstone of the brand. IKEA was no longer just a company. It was Ingvar Kamprad's legacy, a vision that reshaped the way the world lives, one flat pack at a time. So, what started as a little boy selling matches became a furniture empire that changed how the world shops for homes. If you enjoyed this story of IKEA's rise, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more amazing business stories, and tell us in the comments, which IKEA product do you own, or which one would you love to buy? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.